Thanks for jumping in to our amazing seminar and or podcast if you're listening to this later. How to buy and sell a home at the same time. We're going to have some tips and tricks on doing that. And today we have a few of the team members here. We have Miss Perry Morgan, broker associate here at Leisure Real Estate. We have Learning with a Lender, the best lender on the West Coast. Sorry if it's not Mitch, but it is Mitch Friedman.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We're gonna have some fun today. So let me know if you guys can see this. Well, if you're listening to it, you won't be able to see this. Selling and buying a home simultaneously. That's a hard one for me. There's a picture of Mitch if you can't see him in the video, and that's us. Here's a quick outline of what we're going to go through today. We might move quickly. Slow us down. If you have questions, throw them in the sidebar, and we'll get those answered for you. Timing considerations. Let's just jump right in. Is that okay, everybody?
Be great.
All right. Oh, I forgot to mention, we're a local Denver real estate company here on the Front Range, Denver Metro. Leisure Real Estate, and we love serving our home buyers, home sellers, and investors here in Denver Metro, Colorado. So let's hop in. Financing options, that's really where Mitch is going to shine. He's going to really take some time and go through a few different options. If you're listening to this or watching this and you happen to be a home seller and a home buyer, you want to sell your house, buy a different one, upsizing, downsizing, and or the other option of keeping the house you're living in now, turning that into a rental property and buying a new primary. So that's a whole seminar in and of itself. I think we did one about 5 or 6 years ago. We're going to talk about preparing your home for sale, pricing your home, marketing your home, working with a powerful team, maybe finding your new home and making an offer, closing the sale. And then we're going to open it up for, if there's anyone left, not bored to death, open it up for some Q&A and give you some of our secret insider tips. And we'll talk about that. It's kind of a bonus at the very end. We're going to also email that to you as well. Timing considerations. Here we go. Wow, that's amazing. Zen, we forgot to mention, is also our client concierge. She creates a lot of this for us, and I'm just amazed by her talent. Challenges of buying and selling a house simultaneously. Here's a couple things we're going to dip into. The importance of timing and coordination, and a few tips and advice for planning and executing a successful transition. So, and we'll probably tell a few stories, but challenges of selling and buying a house at the same time. One thing I can think of right off the bat is we're in a higher interest rate environment than we were. If you had bought your house a few years ago, you may be unwilling to let go of that interest rate, and you get sticker shock if you're looking at possibly upsizing. So, I mean, that's something, Mitch, you could probably understand a lot of your buyers are dealing with at this time, right?
Very much so, and I'll address that as well.
Timing. That's huge. You might be waiting for just the perfect home to pop up, waiting in the bushes, I like to say. And then when it finally hits the market, oh my gosh, there it is. You tour the home with your broker and you love it and you want to write an offer, but the offer's, maybe your house isn't ready to sell right away. And so you have a few things working against you there. And we're going to get into, as far as tips and advice for planning and executing and using a strategy for that scenario. Obviously, you can always call us or text us, but and Mitch has some great financial tools to talk about. That's really gonna dictate whether you kind of get the house or not. Is based off of kind of some of your financial power. Come on through. All right. So here's some other things involved, buying and selling a home at the same time. And there may be some people who've never done this before. There may be some of you folks listening to this that might, and this might be a little first grade for some of you because you've done it a few times. And so that's why we want to talk about some of the basic foundations of buying and selling a home at the same time. And we're going to share this slide share with you too, so I don't want to get you bogged down in the details. We're going to double back, a quick outline of what we're going to be going through. But first, we want to dip right into financing options, and we have Mr. Mitch Friedman with us today, and he's going to talk about a few creative solutions and to help you get started if you're in that position of wanting to sell a home and buy a new one at the same time.
Great. Exactly. Thanks, Bob.
Yep. Take it away.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you. It's good to be part of the team. It's been many years that we've been working together, so appreciate all the support and having me participate in providing financing for your sellers and buyers. And it's always fun to see everybody at our client appreciation events and catch up and talk more personally and then dip into some business as needed. So what I like to always start off with, because it's the state of the market, and that's what a lot of people are very interested in hearing about right now because of all the volatility that we are seeing. And I have an opinion. My opinion changes as the market changes, but I'd like to talk through that for a minute if that's okay.
Yes, please. I know we're all anxiously wondering and waiting.
Yeah. Yes. And again, it's an opinion, but in doing this for 30 plus years and seeing cycles, I always feel like I've seen it all, and then I haven't, because this most recent cycle is a cycle that nobody expected. So when we had the pandemic cycle, which is where a lot of people were able to take advantage of extremely low mortgage rates. I was going to use the word artificially low. They were low. They were artificial or not. That was the reality in the market at that point in time. And why I'm bringing that up is when you have lower interest rates, that then causes a much greater demand in the real estate market. And when you have a real estate market that's already pressured due to not enough inventory for as many buyers or not enough homes on the market for as much demand from new home buyers or move-up buyers, then you have what we went through over the last 3, 4, 5 years. It really was more like a 12-year run, but the crazy high escalation valuation to property took place over those last 3 years. That was the perfect storm for that to happen. Now, thank goodness pandemics don't happen very often, and let's hope they don't happen ever again in our generation of our industry and our career time frame. However, there's going to be something, and these cycles change. And so we have this current cycle that we're in, and there's really two parts to it, in my opinion. One is, what are mortgage rates doing? What have they done? Why have they gone up? And why are they going to possibly go down? And two, we still have a shortage of inventory and available property for the amount of people that actually want to buy a home. And ironically, I look around when I drive all over town to meet clients and have meetings, and I see so much building of properties, but a lot of those are just apartments. And they're people they're building them for people to move into and rent, not to actually buy as a new condominium or townhome. So when we see that on the side of the road, it's not necessarily homes to buy, it's just homes to rent or units to rent. So that industry sees that people need more housing, and that's why you're seeing all these brand new properties being built, because most of us say the same thing. Where are all these people going to come from to fill these brand new apartment complexes? But they do. And there's big money behind those complexes going up. So that leads me into our daily life of properties and what impact that has on someone who's a seller and someone who's a buyer. So we're in an environment right now where mortgage rates shot up because the Fed was trying to curb inflation, and still is. But then the market started to settle down from an interest rate standpoint because they were seeing that you can only hurt the real estate industry so much and slow it down so much because of the demand people have. And so our industry on the mortgage side becomes very creative, as long as we can, with different types of loan programs to help support people being able to afford buying a home still, even at these higher mortgage rates. And so in doing so, what that does is it now allows more people to qualify to buy a home, which now puts out more demand on the market. And when you have a higher demand of people who want to buy, I just mentioned this earlier, but not enough homes to satisfy that demand, you've got an appreciating market. So as odd as it might seem, we still have an appreciating market. And Bob, you and I look at these charts a lot, and you and I know that over the last 30 plus years, there's an average rate of return on appreciation of 4%. If we take 30 years worth of data, That is what it is. Even though it's been 22% one year, and there were some negative moments in 2008 and 2009 and 10 and other years, this average rate of 4%. And 4% return on a $600,000 property is $2,000 a month. That's a huge return on your money.
It's incredible. And just from COVID, you're exactly
correct.
right.
Well, it was, yep, exactly.
The COVID market.
But even if you take out COVID years, it's still 4%. So
yeah,
why I bring that up and why it's important is there's a lot of people who are renting who want to buy homes as first-time home buyers, and they're there. There's huge demand for it. Some of the challenges that have needed to be met were, I only have $5,000 or $10,000 for a down payment. Well, there's down payment assistance programs. I'm a veteran, and I don't know if I can use my entitlement again. People forget they even have VA entitlement to buy a home with no money down. Oh, I forgot. There's that, and there's many cases where a lot of people just aren't aware of what they can do, and once they do connect with someone like myself, all their options become available to them, and all of a sudden there's even more demand in the marketplace. So if I was a seller of a home and I wanted to buy another home, because that's what this conversation's about today, is please know there's still a very healthy demand for property, but people are not offering 10, 15, 20% above.
Sure.
Nope.
Are you there?
I'm sorry, I got cut off there. Yep. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good. We got you.
Okay, sorry. Siri kicked in for some weird reason.
He does that to me all the time. So
that was
awkward.
very odd. Yeah. So the point of all this is that if I was selling a home and I wanted to buy a home, I feel like this current environment is one of the perfect times to do so, given the climate that we're in. Yes, it's not 2% and 3%. It's more like high fives right now, very, very low sixes. The rates have come down again over the last couple of days. And that is sellers are willing to sell at list price or maybe a little over if in fact you're competing. And there's plenty of buyers out there who have found creative ways from our industry to help them afford to buy the properties right now. So if I was a seller and I needed to buy, I would be completely fine selling at whatever the current market price is that you would tell them the market is, Bob. And if there were multiple offers, that's just gravy. Keep in mind when you have to go buy the next home, there might be multiple offers and you may have to pay a little bit more than asking or right at the asking price if the seller's asking because there's more people interested in that same home. But this opportunistic moment in the current environment we're in is going to be short-lived. And the reason why I say that is we will see mortgage rates come down probably in the next 90 to 120 days and then continue over the next 18 to 24 months for a variety of reasons, which I'm not going to get into today. But when we have those lower rates, we're going to see the demand pick up even further, which means we're going to see continued appreciation, possibly above that average of 4%. We all know Colorado is an awesome place to live for all the reasons we know. So many people are moving into the state still, especially in the Denver metro areas, and second homes and investments in the mountains are picked up again and have been picked up. So it's I don't see a slowdown. We had a little bit of a lull, but it wasn't a declination in value. It was just buyers and sellers were negotiating on a final price. There were sellers paying buyers' closing costs, which was very well needed in that moment. And now we're seeing that that's not as prevalent, but still being asked for in certain transactions. So if I was a seller, I think it's an opportune time to consider selling if you're and buying if you need to or not. As a buyer, there are so many variety of programs available to help buyers get into property right now. Between all the different down payment assistance programs, we have a brand new one that we use an FHA loan with that a buyer can get up to 5% towards their down payment. And they do not have to pay it back if they live in the home for 5 years. So that's a new, very exciting program. There's what we call those 2-1 temporary buy down loans, where you can buy down the interest rate 2% below what the current market rates are to help ease your way into a monthly payment. And that makes it more affordable. And there's a lot of reasons why that works for a lot of people's financial circumstances.
Sure.
I mentioned VA earlier, but there are a lot of veterans who have their entitlement and that does not require any down payment whatsoever. And you get a below market interest rate. One of the things our companies, as I mentioned, is offering a free refinance within 5 years of purchasing a home. So if somebody buys a home now and they get into at today's rates and the rates drop that we think they're going to over the next 18 to 24 months, we'll give them a call. Or I will give them a call, let them know that I know the rate they had. Here's the current market rates. I think they could take advantage of this and get a lower payment. And our company is not charging any lending fees, and we're giving $1,000. It's great, and we're giving $1,000 credit towards title insurance closing costs. So it's really about a $300 cost.
I'll be calling you in a few months on that.
Well, you got to buy a property. We got to close now, and it's got to actually, as long as you close by the end of this year, that program will be offered for that time frame.
That's awesome. So you've laid out some some creative. You've got the 2-1 buy down. You've got the free refi. You've talked about, the assumable, what's the assumable? I've had that come up. So I think a lot of folks don't know that there are some assumable mortgages. Is that something that you would consider, or is that not even a thing?
Well, it's getting a little more traction because of the lower rates those loans carry. So for example, if it's an FHA loan or a VA loan, both government-backed mortgages, those loans by default are always assumable to a prospective new buyer. However, how those work is if I was a seller and you were the buyer and I bought a home and I owe $250,000 on my assumable FHA loan, but now I'm selling the home for $450,000 and I have $200,000 in equity in that example, you as the buyer must have enough money to give a large down payment to get down to the current loan amount of $250,000.
I see.
So we're not seeing a lot of those take place because a lot of people utilizing an FHA loan don't have $200,000 for a down payment.
Sure.
And when you look at putting that kind of cash down as opposed to a 5 or 10% down conventional loan, oftentimes the cost of your money is worth not assuming the loan and having access cash to do other kinds of investing. So it is very specific to the property and the buyer, but a lot of people forget about that. Who's going to make up the difference in the equity to give the seller to assume the loan?
Exactly. Okay.
So assumable loans are talked about though, for sure. There's home equity loans for people to tap into the large amounts of equity that they've gained over the years and use that money to purchase a new home. And we talk a lot about that with our clients and your clients.
Is that on that point? Is that something that for the client that wants, it's not going in a different direction, the one that wants to keep it as a rental with that low rate, for the one that says, "Hey Bob and Maisha, really, hey team and Mitch, I'd like to sell my current home and to buy the new one, so I don't have so I'm not holding 2 mortgages." Would that be a strategy to let's go back to the example where you're waiting in the bushes or whatnot, you're waiting for the right new home to pop up, it pops up, you don't want to lose out on it. Would that help with that? And then so they could buy it right away, non-contingent, and then sell their other home after the closing? Would that be a scenario?
Yes, that is a very valid and very well used scenario. And in that example, either you, if I hadn't talked to them already, or I would talk to them about getting that home equity loan established on their current home immediately. So they need to get working on that right away. Some of those take 30 to 45 days to complete. So if their strategy is to use their equity in their home as their down payment to buy the next home, that's something they'd want to get taken care of right away. But yes, once they have that in place, they now have access to that cash to purchase a home. Either they'll have availability to either pay cash for the home, depending on how much equity they actually do have in their current home, by taking out all the money on their line of credit, or they'll use that line of credit for a 20% down payment, let's say, on the new purchase, and then sell their home. So they could buy that new home, not contingent on the sale of their home, which is important. And then when they sell their home, they would pay off that new home equity loan, as well as their regular first mortgage on the home. And if they have money left over, they could then apply that equity, additional money, towards reducing the balance on the new home they just bought for the mortgage that we provided them with to help reduce their monthly payment. That's called a loan modification.
Cool.
So I go through all those examples and ideas with a prospective buyer or homeowner who wants to sell but fell after the fact. So that's very.
We have a quick question from someone. Justin, I think you raised your hand. I'm going to unmute you. Is that okay? or if you can unmute yourself. Let's see here. Huh. We're still getting used to Google Meet, so bear with us. Sorry, guys.
Maybe you can put it in the chat.
Yeah. Cool. We'll look for that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like a great option, a stress-free if the equity is there in the current home. Seems like
Yes.
from a realtor's perspective and probably lender, seems like a stress-free experience doing it that way, because then you have time to get your home for, get it ready for sale, and it makes it easier on the client after the fact. And then they don't have to worry about being homeless or missing out on the dream home that just popped up.
Exactly. And then the other option you and I talked about yesterday as well is converting a home to a rental property, which is that's happening quite a bit right now. So if I own a home today and I want to convert it to a rental and then buy another new home, I can still do the go get a home equity loan strategy, have that available for my down payment, but then also convert my home to a rental. And then we as the lender are able to use a percentage of the new rental, the lease agreement from the new prospective tenant, to help offset the current mortgage payments on my existing home that I'm going to convert. And then I can go buy another home and qualify just for that new payment and cover my current mortgage payment with the rent that this new tenant's going to be providing to me. And that's become very attractive for owners of homes who have a 2 and 3% interest rate. So to not lose that loan, and then all of a sudden they've created for themselves a rental property and another asset for their portfolio.
Seems like a great wealth building tool. I actually have had a lot of clients request that, over the last few years, and curious about the strategy. But that's fun. I know we did a full seminar based off of that, but we'll probably do a new one pretty soon just on that topic, because I think it's important.
Sure. Yep. And so, like you and I, we both get hired by our clients to provide these kinds of options and these different ideas behind whatever meets their needs and what their goals are financially. And sometimes if they don't know if it exists, they now have time to think about different scenarios to say, maybe I could do that. Maybe I'm okay being a landlord or hiring a management company even to convert my property to a rental and move forward with another purchase and take it from there. So that's why we're here. We've got a lot of experience between me and your team and my team, and we've seen a lot of different scenarios take place and work and do very well for people. And I think people's concerns right now, as I mentioned in my little market analysis, is more about what's the state of the market. And I think understanding the reality of the ins and outs of what's happening right now, which I think are not negative by any means. I think we're all going to be okay, and the real estate market is going to be just fine and has been. We just have not seen the decline that people think there's going to be.
I'm with you. Thanks.
Very positive on the market.
I love that. Thanks for sharing, because I know there's such uncertainty out there and everyone's just worried. The national news doesn't know. I tell clients, like, if you're thinking about doing a real estate deal in any fashion, don't just turn your news off. Don't listen to the national news, and let's tune into your local data. And that's all you need, really.
Right. And you and I are boots on the ground. We see, we talk, we hear all day long. And, I probably speak with 30 people in our industry daily, along with listening to a lot of financial reports on what the market's going to do from an interest rate standpoint. And there's nothing that is saying doom and gloom. What they're saying is we have a shortage of property, a shortage of inventory, and mortgage rates should be creeping down over the next several months. So to me, those two go hand in hand. It's still a great setup. I think the nice thing is that if the first people that aren't really sure what the market's doing because they're not tuned in like you and I am you can take advantage of the market if you're a buyer and go, people think it's a slow market. I'm going to come in and be very aggressive with my offer. And if you're a seller, you're going to say, I'm tuned in. My realtor and lender told me exactly where the market's at. Let's make a fair transaction, but I don't need to really sell $50,000 below market because we still have a very healthy marketplace.
Exactly. Well, and the market will speak to you. If you are the seller, the market will speak to you and Yeah, tell you where you are at the end of the day. The market decides the price.
Exactly.
The market's still there, so that's great.
That's true. But they do.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just say we still get asked the questions, and we're looked at as the professionals, and we're looked at as the advisors to say, what do you see in the market though? Because you guys are living it every day.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's
great.
We're seeing some of the best. I mean, the best properties are still going under contract quickly, and within a day or two, they're just getting cherry picked. Back on the creative side, is there anything else? I mean, I know you guys have a ton of cool creative stuff you're doing with you and the company. Is there anything else you'd like to mention? I like the free refi. I know we have a program called Love It or List It. Love it or leave it. And it's similar where if you buy a home with us within the first year and you hate it, you hate your neighbors, we sell it for free for you. So I think those would go hand in hand.
We do. We actually have two, and I'll touch on them. And again, they're in by themselves a whole presentation, but I'll do a very quick overview. So one of our other new programs that just came out at the beginning of this month is called List and Lock. And so what we're able to do is if you have a seller who wants to list their home, and they want to market their home at a below market interest rate between the seller contributing funds towards buying down the mortgage rate, and we, the lender, are also contributing funds to buy down the interest rate. Together, you could offer a discounted mortgage rate to any prospective buyer who can qualify to buy the home to help make your home extremely aggressively marketed to separate it from other homes that are on the market that are not offering this program. So it's called List and Lock.
Love that.
And it is phenomenal. It's brand new. It's very well dialed in. There's a website specific for realtors and sellers to see exactly how that would work and impact their home. And it could be for an existing property you have on the market that isn't selling for whatever reason. If all of a sudden you could list it and say, well, I'm offering 4.25% for a 30-year fixed rate when the current market's at 6. That is a huge carrot for many prospective home buyers who all of a sudden didn't think they could afford a $600,000 home, and maybe they can now.
That's great.
So
I love that.
That's one option. And the other is the one that you and I have dived into quite extensively, and that's called Home Fund It. And that program, for lack of a better way to explain it, is if you were to envision a GoFundMe account where people go online and create an account for others to help support whatever their endeavor is and they're trying to accomplish with money. What we've done is we've created a bank account with a prospective buyer or with a buyer who's looking to purchase a home in the next 0 to however many years. They can keep this account open in perpetuity, really. But it's a way for family, friends, coworkers, whomever to help contribute towards a down payment without having to go through the normal channels of validating or verifying gifts and other contributions to helping purchase a home. We also contribute up to $2,000 for our buyer client. You as a realtor can contribute whatever you feel is appropriate to help support that.
And employers as well, right? You mentioned
employers as well. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who is listening or viewing into this presentation today or will be listening in the future, if you work for a corporation and you would like to learn more about an employee benefit program in relation to helping employees purchase a home to live in sponsored by the employer and by Bob and myself, please let us know and we'll talk through that in detail.
Yeah, thanks.
It's a powerful program and one that has really been supported by employers. So that's another great, unique program that's proprietary to our company, just like that List and Lock is. And then that down payment assistance program I mentioned earlier, where we're giving 5%, or we have access to, so we're not giving it, 5% down payment towards purchasing a home, which means a buyer doesn't have to have any money for down payment. There's closing costs that have to be addressed, but not down payment money.
Yeah, this is great.
So many different options.
I've been so excited, and what's been challenging for me is some of it is so cutting edge and new. It seems almost too good to be true. When I'm explaining some of these options you have for our clients and our past and present, future clients, it's a lot to grab onto. And
it is.
Like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. Is that a thing? Is that legal? Not legal, but even the 501, however they structure it, they said, oh my gosh, you mean anyone can contribute to they just give me money and it's held in an account and it could be endless, it can be over the course of 3 years. or longer.
Yes,
I mean, there's
or
no time
longer.
limit to that. So I
There's
think
not. I mean, yeah, most times it's being used within 12 months. That's just
uh,
the nature of when somebody's trying to purchase a home. But
yeah,
yes, it could be used for someone who just got into graduate school, and they say, "Look, when I graduate from graduate school, I don't want any gifts, but it'd be great if you donated to my Go home funded accounts because I'm looking to purchase a home when I graduate."
sure. And a
And so there's
wedding, like we talked about the wedding. And
weddings.
I want to fund myself and just put a QR code in my local pub with a picture of me up there. I
Well,
mean,
I have
here
had
or there, you can do that, right? I mean, just
you can.
anyone.
Anybody can. I've had clients who say they've received $5 from some anonymous person. They have no idea who they are, but
That's
they saw
great.
their post on social and said, "I want to help these people buy a house. This is
I want
great."
to, let's put it out in the newspaper. You know, there's an old story. I won't go into the weeds here, but there was a man named Mr. Donovan that my grandparents took care of. And as the family story goes, I think he put something in the newspaper just asking for $1. And then ran, and he just received this astronomical amount in the mail from just some
Wow.
random strangers that just sent him $1. Back in the old days when you had to stamp and mail it in.
Yep. And you had newspapers to post ads in the classified section.
So it reminds me of
Yeah,
that. You can
that's
really
interesting. Yeah.
anyway.
Well, now we still receive nickels in the mail though.
So
Other
while we
reasons.
have you, anything else that you wanted to? I mean, you did a really great job on laying out some great creative options. I think. Is there anything else you wanted to mention, other than you being the best in the West out here, in our
Well,
opinion?
I appreciate those accolades. I would say yes. My words of advice would be, it never hurts to pick up the phone and ask the questions. Does it make sense for me to buy a piece of real estate if it's your first time buying? Learn what your options are, and then determine if it's the right thing for you. Because renting doesn't give you anything in return other than shelter, which is important, but you're spending thousands of dollars monthly to not have any kind of net worth or any kind of wealth building impact for yourself. When if you purchase a home, you start the day you close, and all of a sudden you're building your own net worth and your wealth for the long run. And that's really important to consider if that's important to you
Mhm.
as a person who wants to buy a home and build that kind of wealth.
Yeah, it's a great
So
closing
there's yep.
statement. We should do a whiteboard one of these days. We'll do a little whiteboard, and we can just use. I would use COVID. I would use 2020, 2021. I think what was it, 17.9% or something per year.
On average. Yep.
Like using numbers, I would use the average at the time was, I think, for a home was $600,000. So if once you do the math in 1 year, they appreciate you. Like the folks who sat on the sidelines, unfortunately, missed out on a whole a whole ton of appreciation.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you use the current interest rates and if you use just the 4% appreciation, again, that's a national average throughout the country over 30 years. It's a 3-year period to wait to where you actually really start seeing a huge incremental increase in net worth and equity position in a house. So compared to renting at current market rents on average.
Well, thanks for tuning in, and feel free to hang out, Mr. Mitch, for the rest of this. We're going to blow through.
Thank you.
I really appreciate having you and your expertise here. We've loved working with you over all these years, but hope to tune in again to another fun podcast and/or seminar, however you're tuning in.
Thanks for
We're going
having
to
me.
move on to the rest of this little seminar, and I'm going to be quick here. Preparing your home for sale. So now we've talked about financing. Back to our outline. You're coming to us and you're thinking about selling a home and buying one. Fun, fun, fun. Now I'm just going to prep you to say this is going to be a stressful time up front. It's not. It can be fun, and we're going to do our best to have some fun with you. And I think the stress-free aspect is oftentimes overlooked, and some of it's out of our control. It's people and it's real estate. So there are a lot of characters on the field that we have no control over. The importance of making an excellent first impression. If you look to these photos, if you can see the slide share, I mean, everyone's watching HGTV and they kind of think all houses should look like this. I wish every home I sold looked like this. That'd be great. But what we do is we're going to have a consult with you. We have a design staging consult. And anyone listening to this or wherever you're tuning in, we have a whole checklist. If even before we meet with you, we'll send that off to you. Just let us know. Throw it in the chat bar, email us, call us. we're going to dip, and that's a pretty lengthy document, but that's an in-person meeting. So we're going to go through, help you get your home ready to sell, and have our staging design team come in there and have it looking as close as we can get it to these photos you see on this last slide. Pricing, that's something else that very important, especially in today's market. The last better part of 10 years, you could kind of just in an upswing we were experiencing, still a seller's market. Technically, historically, we're still in a seller's market, but you could, within range, you could kind of shoot the moon and get your price. So we spend a lot of time together, whichever team you're going to choose. We do a lot of homework there, and you want to really make sure you're pricing your home right the first time or within range. Factors that influence home value and pricing. I know that some of this seems pretty basic. Sometimes we forget that there are other forces at play that we have no control over: supply and demand, interest rates. We're going to meet with you. We're going to talk about all these things. Usually in the first appointment, when you sit down with the realtor and their team, we're going to talk about pricing and marketing. Location, obviously that's a factor there. Amenities. Do you have a pool? Wine bar? Fully remodeled? Supply and demand, we talked about that. Size of the home. All of these factors influence pricing. All right, jumping right into the market. I think I lost everyone to sleep now.
No.
Did we lose Mitch? Are you still here, Mitch?
Mitch is still here.
All right, marketing your home.
I'm still here, Bob.
Oh, yay, you stayed
Yeah,
with
you
us.
keep going. I learn every time you do this, so thank you for going through it.
So we have our team has what we call a 198-step marketing plan. It's great. It's kind of the standard, I feel, for the industry, but we also add to that based on the property type and the area. We're going to create a customized marketing plan for each and every home. Most people don't think we do that, but it's really important to do that. Real estate's hyper local, especially here in Denver Metro. You have mixed neighborhoods with some with new builds and pop tops and scrapes mixed in with your Denver historic homes, Tudors and mansions, and all the fun we're having. But yeah, we're going to talk through your marketing plan. We're going to come out after during the same appointment when we're talking about pricing. Your team's going to help you give it its best foot in the market. Here's just a few things that we're doing here. I don't like to spend too much time talking about what we're doing. Let's see if I can get this video to play. Just wanted to play this quick video. Here's an example of a gorgeous home here in Denver that we sold at the end of last year. Is it playing on here? If you're tuning into this and just listening, you can't see what we're playing here, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. But just wanted to give you a quick teaser example of some of the marketing we're doing here in Denver. That's one of them. Working with a team. We've got our preferred lender on this in this meeting, and it's important to have a team approach, we call it. So that's important. You don't want a one-person rodeo helping guide you with this selling, especially when you're selling and buying at the same time. Benefits of working with a team. Let's say you choose a one-person rodeo. You're selling a house. You're also buying a house. That realtor is going to be, if it's on the realtor side, they should be really devoted and have a specialized team devoted to marketing and selling your home. If they're doing an open house for you on a Saturday, but there's also a property you want to go see at the same time, just laying out an example of why you want a team approach. You want to get in and see that property at the same time, but your one-person team is busy marketing and doing your open house and hopefully knocking doors and shaking the tree, as I like to call it, bugging the neighbors, hassling everyone. Key qualities to look for when choosing a team. I think I just went through a few. You want a proactive approach. We don't do you don't want the old, they call it the 3 Ps of real estate. Put a sign in the yard, put it in the MLS, and pray that it sells. That's the old joke. There's a lot, unfortunately, that's still happening here and there, different states and areas. You want a proactive approach, someone that's not afraid to go knock doors in your neighborhood, make calls, and really it's their job to sell your house and find you a new one. And you want to make sure you're communicating with your team. So here at our group, we're huge on communication. We even create a communication plan right up front. and we want to know how much you want to be communicated with. Obviously, once you go under contract on either end, we're going to be your best friend, and we might start to annoy you. So you might have to tell us to back off on communication. Here's a team, some of our team members here. Zen's picture is not up here, our client concierge. There's also going to be title companies you're working with and inspection teams. I mean, it can get a little stressful, and we're going to help guide you through that. Here are a few more examples of the reason you want a full team. The expertise that each professional has to provide there for you. Market insights, negotiation skills, access to resources. That would be something like great vendors, a vendor list. We have a VIP, we call it, well, we have a few different programs, but our VIPs get access to our lifetime VIP club, which is a fun thing. And stress relief, knowing you have a whole powerful team behind you. Finding your new home. So up until now, we were kind of talking about preparing your home that you choose, if you choose to sell the home instead of rent it out, and what that looks like, marketing the home and pricing the home. Then you're going to get out and start working with the buyer team about finding that new home. That's the fun part. Everyone likes buying things. At this point, sometimes we'll split this into two different meetings. Selling and buying. But really, we're going to run you through a lifestyle needs analysis appointment. We want to figure out exactly what you're looking for in this lifestyle and home change. And it's a ton of questions. And it's fun for us because we really get to learn about our clients and what their needs are. Budget, we're going to talk about how much you want to spend, the different areas, how much you travel each year, if you like to read or if you like to entertain, do you have dogs, do you want goats, chickens, things like that. Denver lifestyle, penthouse, are you up for in the mountains? Do you want both? Do you like to ski? Would you like a ski out? I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Bob, can I interject in here?
Oh yeah, please, because this is a really important part. I'd like to have you.
Sure. So budget means finances, which means me.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes before somebody either puts their home on the market or of course goes to look for a property, we go through a very well-defined budget plan to make sure that their needs are being met from their daily financial responsibilities, as well as their desire of what kind of home they want to buy once they sell, or if it's a home they're buying and they're not selling a home. So we make sure that those numbers and ideas that are available to them from a program selection have been established before they put their house on the market. So they don't sell their home and then all of a sudden go, oh my goodness, I had no idea I couldn't do what I wanted to do at a certain monthly payment that was comfortable or affordable. So we want to take all the guesswork out of that. And we want to make sure it's going to be a successful transaction from listing the home with using the information about what kind of home they want to buy. So those go hand in hand every single time if you're a seller and your goal is to buy another property.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. Very important.
Yeah.
And the obvious stuff that we have to, sometimes we forget about because we do this so much with clients. Don't go out and buy during the window of opportunity, don't go out and buy a new car and all these things that you hear stories of. Don't quit your job.
Right. That's a new one. That's a very popular one these days. Not quitting, but changing jobs in between while they're under contract. So we have to make sure we counsel properly on that.
And thanks for mentioning that. And obviously with you here too, making an offer, it's having Mitch, a lender, as part of your team. When we go to make an offer, and I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've heard all the stories at backyard barbecues for all these years. Oh my God, 30 offers and 100, 200,000 over, and we had to, give them our firstborn child to get them to accept our offer. Very important to have a team approach there as well. Oftentimes the lender, being Mitch, will call the listing agent on the house that you want and go through that conversation just to really. And Mitch, wouldn't you say that you have that conversation quite often, don't you?
I'll have it as long as the listing agent picks up the phone. When the market was very busy and they had 20 offers, they didn't pick up the phone because they just couldn't physically do all that. However, the goal with my phone call is to help promote the offer that our mutual client has made to purchase the home that they really want to purchase. And so I have a myriad of questions I go through with the listing agent to make sure, one, that they understand how we're going to make this transaction work well for both of our clients, for our buyer client and for their seller client. And then oftentimes I'm educating the listing agent about certain mortgage programs that they maybe are not familiar with. A lot of times they haven't worked with, for example, a veteran or a VA home loan in a very long time. So they have a misconception of how those are used and what impact it has on the seller. And it has no impact on the seller. So, but they think it does. So I very much get involved in those phone calls and making sure everybody's on the same page and knowing what the offer really is, not just what it shows on paper, because sometimes it does require a lot of conversation around that.
Yeah. Well, and reputation, not to float your boat, but I've had it over all these years. We've worked together as a team. They see that you're the lender and they're like, yeah, we want you. We know Mitch. We love Mitch. Done.
I was going to thank you for that plug, but yes, I was going to say relationships are everything in this industry. So if I know the listing agent, that phone call becomes oh, it's you, Mitch. You don't even need to tell me because I already know you wouldn't be providing an approval letter for a client that wasn't approved.
Exactly.
But I still make that call. We still connect. We still answer the same questions to make sure everyone's representing their clients properly. But it does mean they may take our client's offer over another client's offer just due to our relationship if those offers are similar. So, valid point.
So, yeah, and I jumped ahead just a little bit here. This would be after we found you something. We're going to run a full market evaluation on the property you're considering. Make sure you're not overpaying. I mean, that's another reason why you want a team in place. You hear also stories of, and once you get it under contract, the quick flyover is you run through inspection, appraisal. If you're cash, you skip appraisal, and then you go to closing. There are a lot of stories which just buyers wanting to waive their inspections and things like this all these years. That's something that we never really allowed. And I might say, oh my gosh, Bob, if that's something you'd want to do, we're probably not a good fit for you. And not that I can force you to do an inspection, but we always want our buyers, I don't care how hot the market is, we want you to do a home inspection every single time, even if it's for your own personal use. So does that make sense to you as a lender as well, Mitch? I know you probably saw a lot of inspections waived over all these years.
Yes, I think the best money spent on any new home purchase is for an inspection. You cannot see anything behind the walls. You're not getting underneath the sinks. You're not going into crawl spaces. So you want to find out where there's any concerns about the condition of the property with that inspection. And that becomes the roadmap to the next steps of continuing to purchase the property or renegotiating with the seller to do some improvements, which we're seeing a little bit more of now than we were before.
Yeah, it's come back. Inspections are back. Yay.
Well, they should be. They're important.
Yeah, I think a lot of people got caught up just in the frenzy of I want this house. And I forget the NAR report that just hit at the beginning of this year, something like 80% of home buyers that purchased between COVID and now were just unhappy with the overall process and felt like they just didn't have any leverage, that they overpaid, and so that's something that really our focus moving forward is to make sure that never happens obviously with our team. Just as far as recap, I think we did a great job laying this out, but we have, if you do have more questions and you're considering this very scenario, if you're a personal friend or past client, I likely have talked to you about it, or we know that you're primed and ready to go. But if you'd like to dig into it a little more, if you have questions based off of this quick seminar, don't worry, we're going to do other ones, but you can always call and PM me and we'll get all of your questions answered. I promised we'd have a few bonus insider secrets. Some of these, and just direct message me or call me. Just a few fun things. And then Mitch, this is a few things you probably have seen. And the jury's out on love letters. So love letters, I'm a fan of on the buyer side. I might not be saying this in 5 years from now because they're really clamping down on them. The love letter, we have a template. Well, it's in this power slide share. I'll share it with you. Just let me know if you'd like a copy ahead of time. For all of our buyers that we work with, if we do think we're going into a multiple offer situation, you've probably heard the stories. A love letter is just something where you write a little bit about yourself and your family and why you love the home and how you couldn't imagine a better home, and with a little picture of yourself. But we have a very specific template we use. You could just kind of use the same one for each property if you miss out on offers. Mitch, you've probably seen quite a few of those over the years.
We have, my version of a love letter is I call the listing agent and talk through really the same things of our client wants. This is the home that they're going to live in. They're not going to be an investor. They're not trying to flip it. And all those things do have impact on a seller's decision. I've had sellers say, I want to sell to a new family who wants to make this their first home ever, because when the current seller bought it, it was their first home ever.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many times that is something that's important to a seller. So you never know what's going to click with the seller. It's not always the best or highest price. It could be, again, kind of that scenario I pointed to. So communication is really what it comes down to, in my opinion. And that's why we get hired, to communicate with everybody in all facets of the transaction, all the way through closing, and then years to follow afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, it's important.
So that's really kind of that second bullet there, the second circle. How to win the transaction. That's part of my job too, like it is for yours, is communicate with the other agent, the other side. On my end, from a buyer side, from a seller side, it's a little different for you.
You know it, yeah. It's a fine ballet. Well, and on the love letters, just a quick story. We've seen those work for many different times, because some people ask us, "Wow, do those really work?" And I'll explain the downside of why you might hear people don't use them. Even from a listing broker, from my side as a listing broker, I have to ask permission if my client would like to see them. But I could tell you a handful of stories, more than a handful, of where my own client, being the seller, chose the low. She or he or they accepted an offer that was significantly lower than it's my job to get them the highest price and the best terms and all these other things. So it was really hard for me not to want to go, to bat and get these offers bid up, which is what we've been doing all these years. And they choose the one that sometimes, and this doesn't happen every time, but sometimes they do read that letter and someone gets a great deal on a home, and someone that'll appreciate the home. And I think it's just that they want someone that'll really appreciate the home, instead of scrape it or whatnot, or pop the top or change it. So some people do have feelings about that. Creative provisions, that's contract work. Those two go together. There's a lot of fun stuff that we can do there. We could talk about that, obviously, when we sit down and meet together. And some of these all kind of tie together. Strategy to get multiple offers in the least amount of time. That's on the sell side. And so that's a very specific conversation. And I don't have, anything to show you in the slide share if you're listening to this, but a common strategy some teams have been using all these years to get multiple offers in the least amount of time, get the highest price, is just by creating that auction effect. We kind of know where the market value is of some of our inventory. There's a range. And even if you have an appraisal, if you have 5 appraisals on the same house, the joke is they'll all come in at a different price. But we can get you pretty close. And what we've been doing these years, I think the secret's out now, because we're beyond some of this. The strategy is now we're in a different market, so we're not seeing it work the same way. But it would be, we know your market value and we drop you 10%, pull a crowd in, get all the buyers looking there. And then, over the course of a weekend or maybe 5 to 7 days, we pick the highest and best offer with the best terms.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question on the creative provisions? I can think of one example, and maybe you can expand on it, but a lot of people are very concerned about selling their home. Well, one, making an offer on another home and being contingent on the sale of their home. And I have found that you present to your seller clients that one of those provisions is sell the home with a 60-day leaseback provision where they can stay in the home for up to 2 months after closing.
Oh yeah,
Do
great.
you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yes, thanks for bringing that up because I know that. Yeah, I didn't even think to mention that. So a lot of folks, it's scary. You don't want to be homeless. What if what if we sell our house and we just need time back, or whatever the story is? Yeah, there's a great. We use great language in our contracts, and we negotiate what's called a post-closing occupancy agreement. It's a fancy term for a rent back at a fair market rate, and sometimes you can get free time, free no rent. And so what it would be is you sell your home, you close on it, you're under contract on your new home. But let's say you need, like Mitch had mentioned, 30 to 45, 60 days back in the home after closing. We close you out on the home you're selling. You get paid. So you go to closing, get a big check. That's going to probably go to your new house. But you're going to have some time back in the home to move. You hire the movers, clean up. You might need some time there. So it is a great, thanks for mentioning that. It's a great stress-free way to for that transaction, to structure that.
To sell and buy, but it also eliminates the need for a contingency offer on the next property if they've already sold and closed before they make offers on the next property.
Exactly. Oh, another great point. Yeah, if the timeline works out, yeah, exactly. And another example would be, you can have a lot of folks are worried that they go to sell their home first, that they maybe they don't find another one in time, in the time range that they're looking for. Nothing hits the market. They don't want to be homeless, and we don't want them to be homeless. So there's another clause you can have in our contract work that basically it states that it's contingent upon the sellers finding a new home, meaning that once you go under contract, on your home you're selling, the whole deal is contingent on you finding that new home. And at any point you could just say, I'm done, I give up. Let's just, hold the phone. Let's hit pause. That's fine to do too. So there's different creative ways we've used to create that stress-free experience for clients that are selling and buying and or investing.
Yep. Great.
So thanks for and aggressive contracts. What that would be is just the way we write the contract, the dates and the deadlines is this section that, if you're listening to this and if you sold or bought a home, you kind of know that section. It's the dates that are spelled out that you have to do your inspection by, and your insurance and your title work and all that good stuff, and your closing dates, usually about a 30-day window. Are you still seeing that 30-day transaction window, Mitch?
We are. Some of them are getting even more aggressive and trying to close sooner because of a couple possible competitive offers that are coming in alongside that. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing 20-day closings again, 23-day closings, and they're fine.
What's the fastest on the lender side you've been able to close one out?
About 12 days.
Wow.
And it was when everything was so crazy. So it was very stressful for everybody involved. Right now, because it's not as busy as it was then being a year plus ago, it's doable, but really a buyer needs to be fully approved and everything in order to close quickly in this market.
That's great.
But we can do it.
Well, and as always, a shameless plug at the end of this. If you know anyone looking to navigate the market, even if they just have questions, real estate questions, we love talking real estate, whether it's a finance, whether it's on the lender side with Mitch or our team, feel free to lead them our way. We'd love to, we love those real estate referrals and serving those. So yeah, feel free to give us a call. We're nice. We won't bite, we promise. And just
the beauty of our industry and what we do up front is obviously no cost, no obligation, because we can't charge for things like information. Yeah. But what we are is a trusted advisor to help people understand what their options are, to make really good financial decisions that are important for the long run. And if they feel comfortable and like the information we're providing and our personalities click, we're all very competitively priced in our respective part of the industry. We are definitely a great team to consider working with if you are looking to sell or buy or refinance, or just want some information to know what next steps are. And it may not be you, but it could be a family member, a coworker, or a friend even that you've heard talking about it. We're also here to help others as well.
Sure, it. Well, thanks, Mitch, for being a part of this, and thanks everyone who tuned in, and that you're either watching this or listening to us in the future on YouTube or whatever land we're in the interweb. But,
thanks for inviting me again today, and it's always fun to talk about the market and how to best help people.
All righty.